Hello and welcome to another episode of Be the Love to Awaken Our Souls. Thank you again so much for tuning in this week. I'm Stacy Musial.
And I am Brenda Carey, and we are your co hosts and souls on the journey. We are on a mission to raise the consciousness of humans and the planet, and we need your help. Please spread the word to your family and friends and join us every week. Consider becoming a Patreon supporter or a sponsor to help with the operating costs like editing and the many hours we spend creating these shows with quality guests and content. And if you have resonated with our mission, support us in a way that raises your vibration to love.
And if it feels safe for you, I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a moment to get centered with us. I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a beautiful cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, releasing anything that is keeping you from being present. And take another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in calm, peaceful, loving energy, and breathing out anything you are ready to release in this now moment. And take one more breath in through your nose, breathing in light and love for yourself. And imagine breathing that light and love and send it back to all of humanity, remembering that you always, always have your breath to come back to.
I'd like to begin by wishing all of our listeners a very, very happy new year. And this is honestly one of my favorite times of year. I really think it's a sacred, even magical time. However, I do realize for many of us, we're coming off the hangover of Christmas and any holiday that you celebrate. And so the maybe overactivity or the abundance of stimulation that tends to occur during what's meant to be a quiet time of year can really feel overwhelming. And we can forget the gifts of this more quiet, darker season. And since we're coming off of winter solstice, which is also meant to be a very reflective time, an introspective time, and a time to really shine our inner light and really know what that means personally for us. So that I feel like when we come to this new year, it's this opportunity to really look at what do I want to create for this new year, an intention, a vision of something that we really want to shine forward in our own unique way.
hmm Yeah, this is really one of my favorite times of the year. I absolutely love the new year and being able to create a new vision for myself and what I want to truly create. And recognizing, yeah, like you said, as we are moving out of winter solstice, we came from the darkest time of the year, and now we are moving into the light and shining the light where we can truly shine the light on the things we want to create and including the things we're ready to heal within ourselves. And, how are we going to move forward in the new year with this light for ourselves for the year ahead? And I think it's really a beautiful time to, reflect on the things that we did create and that did manifest in the previous year, because I think that's really important in order to move forward, to recognize, oh yeah, I did, you know, really accomplish a lot. And, recognizing and reflecting on those things is really important so we can also maybe build on the things that are working and the things that we want to create for the new year and then continue that forward momentum. I think it's such a beautiful time. And I think when we can come into a new year with intention, it's really a powerful force because that intention will help us move forward. And, when we have intention, our minds and our bodies are, the universe is helping us with that. It finds ways to create the things that we want to have. And it's really an important thing to have that vision for ourselves.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. You know, having a higher intention connected to wisdom, source, divine, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna back it up a little bit and just share like a short, like what used to be true for me. I always came upon the new year kind of like mixed reviews. Like I'd be, yeah, excited for the new year, but I always focused on more of a mindset of lack or scarcity. And I am not, criticizing our society at large, but it definitely is very invested in external things that will supposedly make us feel fulfilled. So obviously this time of year we're seeing a lot of products and programs advertised for like weight loss or financial freedom, or organization is another one, like organize your closets, or whatever it might be. And I get it, that's like the typical New Year's resolution. And I think what we're trying to communicate is no, we are creators, and we can be creators of a higher vibration. And so for those of you who are like, oh, I like to make New Year's resolutions, I'm not saying to disband that at all. I'm just saying know where those desires really come from. Like, what do we really desire from our heart? And there's nothing wrong. At least I don't think, with, say, setting a New Year's resolution for losing weight. My encouragement would be, instead of focusing on the word losing, which comes from a place of, scarcity and lack, maybe we focus on being strong, feeling really healthy, really vibrant in our body and our mind. So for some of us, it might just be a little bit of a mental shift, and looking at like, what do I want to create in a positive mind frame, as opposed to what do I want outside of myself that will hopefully, fulfill the void that I feel inside. So that's my encouragement. I'm definitely a believer in, set the goals that you want if you feel like you really are drawn towards that, and also have a more heart-centered intention of like, how can I create this that will raise my vibration, and those goals will hopefully more easily be accomplished.
I 100% agree because I think it's so important, because we can have these resolutions, but they are externally focused. And, one thing that's helped me over the years is, recognizing, yeah, like you said, like what is under that? Like what do you really want to create? It's not necessarily weight loss or, I mean, it's weight loss, but it's like, how do you want to feel?
Yeah.
Right. And that vibration, that vibrant, optimal health, and so that is the intention, right? And then you can discover and, come up with steps on how you want to get there to feel that. So I personally, one of the things that I really like to do, aside from, the Sankalpa, which we'll talk about here soon, but, really coming up with maybe a word or theme for the year. And so that might be, what's a word that would really feel good and connect you to your goals, So for me, like this year, my word and theme is connection and presence. And
Mm,
so I really want to begin to embody that and, develop connections with people, deeper connections. And, but really when I think about what that looks like, it's really being present with the people that I'm experiencing connection with. So, being present is, really being a deep listener and standing in my truth in what I'm feeling in the moment and being able to express that. And so, really being present with the person, but also with who I am. And so that's going to be a really important thing to come into 2023 for me. But that will help also guide me into my interactions and, my my work and my community and the things that I'm creating to, how will each thing along the way really create the connection and presence that I want to bring into the world and bring into this year.
I love those words of connection and presence. I mean, I think we can all use that in our day-to-day life. And you mentioned one of my favorite words, Sankalpa.
Hmm.
And for our listeners who are like, what is that? This is the ancient yogi practice. It's kind of like the yogi's version of a New Year's resolution. It roughly translates in Sanskrit as a vow to our heart's deepest desire or our highest wisdom. So it comes from a much more of a heart-centered place, from self-love, compassion, as opposed to the rational mind who's going to figure out all the steps. That's not this. A sankalpa, this vow to your true nature, highest self, is meant to be like this overarching, even like a theme, like you mentioned, or a word for the year. It's usually put in a short phrase or sentence that's in the present tense. So it's not like a I will be connected. It's I am connected, or connection is my true nature. And it's phrased in the positive, which we mentioned before. And I love how you mentioned, like, you use that theme word, same with the Sankalpa. We use that to really help bring in what we want to align to, whether that's people or opportunities, and it gives us a direction. Otherwise, my scattered brain can go all over the place, whether it's with personal decisions or business decisions that I have to make. And it feels like I'm just scattered, but I'm not really focused in on what I do really want to create. So I think one of the beauties of having a Sankalpa statement or a word or theme for the year is it does provide that direction from a place of self-love. And for me, it also gives me permission to say no. And that's a
Mm.
big thing because if I feel like even if it's a good opportunity that comes along, but if it's not really aligned with my Sankalpa, then it's just like, you know what? No, it's okay. It might be a later, it might be a wait, but at least it brings me some clarity on how I'm going to move forward rather than just moving forward in a whole bunch of different directions and hoping for the best.
Absolutely. I think having that Sankalpa and word or theme, I like to do both,
Mhm.
honestly, because I have, different intentions for different things, but the with those, intentions and the Sankalpa, it's really easy to, come back to that, because then when you have all these other things, distractions that we have, we're living in a, world of information overload and
Right.
things are always coming at us and we're like, oh, that program looks good or that, looks good. But, does it really match what you're trying to create for that year? It doesn't mean you can't do that at some point. And, but really, like, what is the intention or the Sankalpa that, is helping you move forward in your life? Because, when we have this overload, we can get really lost. And so, having that heart center, that heart desire, when you're really truly meditating and on that space and that heart center, that will help lead you forward because all the other things become, part of that mind chatter. When that mind chatter is like helping you creating that distraction. And, but when you come back to the heart, that's really where I think the answers lie in such a deeper, more profound way that will lead you to your ultimate, purpose and the things that you're truly, truly wanting to create from a soul level.
I love that. Yeah, and I loved how you mentioned meditating because so often, people will ask me, well, how do you come up with a Sankalpa for the year? And I say, well, first of all, for me, it actually starts more at the beginning of December, although winter solstice is like a key day or two around there where I do spend some time in meditation. And I'm a journaler and I love to write. I know that's not everybody's thing, but having some way to really reflect on what I learned this past year, and then what do I want to see for myself for the next year, personally, professionally, excuse me, within, my family structure, and what is that going to look like? So I kind of create like visions in my mind of, what is my new year going to be like? And I am that powerful creator that can empower myself to come up with a phrase to support that. So after I go through sort of the highlights and lowlights of the previous year, and importantly, the things that I learned from this year. And that was one thing I was actually reflecting on a little while ago was, I was focusing a lot on my accomplishments, which all those things are really good to acknowledge. But like, what did I learn personally from those? Like I learned I am way more resilient than I originally thought. Had a lot of change this year, and it takes courage to step into change because I've been pushed outside of my comfort zone more times than I can count this year. And so I really looked at those words like resiliency, courage, bravery, and really took those in. And then I'm like, okay, from there, and this is where you talk about the deepening, from there, like, what is my New Year's Sankalpa going to look like? And what do I really, really want?
Mhm.
Like, I know I might say something surfacey, like, I want my business to grow and I want to be able to help more people with vibrant health. But what do I really, really want? And that takes some time to get down to those deeper layers. And for me, interesting, like we're coming up with the same word of connection. I think that might be a podcast theme. Like being really soulfully connected to divine source or great spirit, whatever you want to call it. And that has really been shining through in my reflection time.
hmm Yeah, and so you mentioned journaling. I love, you know, to journal about, what I want to create for the year. And I'll, even write down my Sankalpa, my words, and I'll come back to them, well, pretty often, like, every month or so, and I'll look at it. But, I'll really want to check in with it several times throughout the year so that I can really make sure that I'm on track. And so it's really nice to be able to write all of that down so you can see that you have made progress or that you're still on track with what your vision is for the year. And that deep visioning and manifesting, when you're writing it down, it becomes more powerful too. And so I really appreciate that. And I oftentimes will, not often, but at most, like every year, I will create a vision board. And so that might look different every year, whether or not it's on a big poster board or in my journal or someplace that I can, will be able to see it on a very frequent basis so that I can come back to that. And the vision board, is just maybe a collage of pictures of things that will represent what I'm wanting to create. Because when we have a picture in our mind, so between the pictures and the words, we're able to really connect, and our mind is going to find ways to continue to create that. So it's a really important and intentional process that we can go through. And, without a vision or a map, we can't get to our destination, right? And so it's so important to have that so we can get to where we want to go, whether or not, we don't always know exactly what the end will look like because it's all, can ebb and flow and weave and, change in the path that we get there, and that might change. But it's important to have an idea of what you want and diving deep into those feelings, because the feelings will help drive the vision forward, which is what's underneath that sankalpa or those words. So that's why it's so important to have those words and that heartfelt desire of what you're truly wanting to create so that you can move into that direction with those deep feelings.
Yeah, I love using the word, well, vision as a verb, like visioning. And like vision boards remind me like that's the process of visioning and creating, the scenarios that we want to see. And it may not be exact. I mean, I always hold the outcome loosely, because we don't always know how we're going to get there. But there is this visioning process. And my sort of super easy way, I haven't done an actual vision board with collages. I'm actually not a very visual person, but I do the really cheap and easy way of post-it notes. So I just will have like these colorful post-it notes, and I put my Sankalpa statement like on my bathroom mirror, on the dashboard of my car. And so I'm constantly seeing that in my business planner. That's a big one.
Mm,
And I really try like in the on the cover of my journal. So I'll have multiple post-it notes. So it like really sinks in to my psyche of like, this is what I'm creating, and this is where I start from, this heart-centered place. And I will say, because, and this is another differentiation between typical resolution and Sankalpa, is that a Sankalpa is fluid. So there have been years, and let me explain what I mean by that, is like I start out saying, okay, this is my Sankalpa statement. Maybe it's something like I am worthy, you know. And then I do kind of a quarterly revision and ask myself, does this really still feel true for me? Because life changes. I mean, that's just honoring the nature of the seasons, whether it's outside or inside ourselves. And oftentimes I will alter or totally change up my Sankalpa statement. It could be in the springtime, it could be in the summer or fall, because I'm like, you know what? I'm not fully resonating with that. Or maybe I feel like I've gone even a layer deeper. And so another word or another theme will show up. And I
mhm,
love having this idea that we're not fixed for the whole year. It's like once you pick your word or your Sankalpa, you have to do it for the whole entire year. And I say, no, it can change and it can be very fluid. And I think that also prevents us from giving up because we know, I don't know what the exact statistic is, but most resolutions end within 4 to 6 weeks or something. Like by mid-February, they're, already thrown out. People are like, oh, I failed. I didn't lose the weight or create the money or whatever it was. And it's kind of like an easy out, like, well, resolutions don't really work for me. And I'm like, oh, but a Sankalpa can always work. We just might need to shift it a little
mhm,
bit. And then from there, start again realigning or revisioning to what do I want to create now?
mhm. And to recognize that, it's a forgiving process.
I
And
love that.
yeah, like we don't have to be so hard on ourselves because we
Right.
didn't accomplish the thing that we set out to do, that it feels like we didn't accomplish that. But what steps did we take to get there, and recognizing even what we would call small steps, right? Because I think we are in a culture of this black and white thinking, like, oh, I didn't accomplish this whole big thing, right? But what did you accomplish? And maybe those small steps, are going to lead you to, that process of what you're trying to create, or the end goal, which it's really not about the end goal because there's really no destination, right? It's all an unfolding process that we get to create when we allow the process to unfold naturally, whether or not it's losing weight. If losing weight is the end goal, you know maybe and we change that to optimal health, like what steps did you take to get there? Was it maybe adding in more greens, or, going for more walks, or, things that maybe getting out in nature, things that are supporting that. And so we get to really look at the things that we are doing right rather than focusing on what we, perceive that we failed at or didn't do, in the way that our minds, you know, like to make up stories about.
So true. So true. So, my encouragement to our listeners is to begin this process. Like, really check in with your heart. Like, what does your heart deeply desire? And create a word or a short phrase, a Sankalpa statement that helps you align to what you do really want to create. And you have that power within you. You truly do. And I
Hmm.
mean, Stacy and I are always wanting to support people in this process. Please reach out to one of us either via the podcast or our personal contacts, and we would love to support you. And thank you for listening to Be the Love. If you have enjoyed listening to our show, please share the love by sharing it with your family and friends, or giving us a 5-star written review on iTunes and Spotify, or liking us on Facebook. And again, I'm Brenda Carey, and as a holistic healer, I offer coaching and online programs to guide people in their sacred path to vibrant health. Please contact me on my website, which is sacredpathyogaandreiki.com.
And I'm Stacy Musial. I'm a psychotherapist specializing in whole person deep soul healing. And you can find out more about my work and my book and programs at awakenyourempoweredsoul.com. And you can check out our links in the show notes. And please consider supporting our mission to awaken our souls with monthly donations that help us with the operating costs of this podcast so we can continue to spread the love. To contribute, visit our Patreon website at patreon.com/Be the Love Podcast. Stay tuned for more episodes being released on Mondays at 5:55 a.m. Mountain Time.